Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch. Brought to you by, amazingly enough, not only thegaminggang.com, which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief, but also Roll for Combat and their Year of Titans Kickstarter, which I will talk about in just a few moments. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. This is live stream 1127. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. We just hang out talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then I'll usually pontificate about a topic related to our hobby. And tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. In fact, all throughout the month of December, except for our Thursday episodes, because we're still going to be doing the Let's Build a Fantasy Role-Playing Game series. So stay tuned for that. But on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we are going to explore some classic 20th century Dungeons and Dragons adventures. Yes. And we are going to kick off tonight by talking about B5 Horror on the Hill. And of course, we'll talk about the latest in tabletop gaming news as well. Now, of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you're not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And should also point out, because this is a live show, there is chat available. Now, it's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you happen to be a subscriber to the channel and you've been a subscriber for at least 10 minutes, you can take part in chat. So if you want to say howdy, maybe get a question, a comment, by all means, chime in, and I will do my very best to respond. First out the gate tonight is our good friend of the show, the Madman. Sean O'Donnell's with us, as is Pete Strakulich, Semper Buffo, the Warwolf, Hector Strafford, 245 Trioxin, and Chris Lundgren. So welcome, everybody. Hopefully everybody here in the U.S., at least, had a very nice Thanksgiving. I had a good holiday. Little Black Friday, rolled out the new sale. I'll talk about the game sale, the gently used game sale, in just a bit. So I've been busy. And of course, finished up the month of November where I was doing my damnedest to make sure we had a brand new review each and every day of the month. We ended up with 28 reviews in 30 days. So not too shabby, not too bad. Yes. So we are going to get on into the tabletop gaming news in just a moment. But first, let's talk about our sponsor. That's right, it's Roll for Combat and their Year of Titans Kickstarter. And there is a short Kickstarter video. Let's give it a peek.
Remember the last time you played a tabletop RPG and your friend cast a fireball spell, killing all the enemies and exploding your whole adventuring party? I know they say that living well is the best revenge. Well, how about you play as a living fireball spell and let revenge be the best revenge with Battle Zoo Ancestry's Year of Titans. Once a month for the next year, you'll receive a unique playable species you won't find anywhere else for your D&D 5th Edition or Pathfinder 2e games. Now you can play as a living spell, a skillful cyclops, a wicked troll, or even a mighty kraken. And those are just the ones I can pronounce. En hair jar?
It's pronounced ein hairyar.
Say tires?
It's satyrs.
Okay, I think I got this one. Dual hand.
Doulahan. It's a headless horseman from Irish folklore, you gigantic tit.
Every month you'll receive a new PDF or Foundry VTT module, along with handmade battle maps, tokens for your virtual tabletop, both static and animated, and detailed in-world lore entries, allowing you to easily add these unique species to your next tabletop session. All this and more for less than a monthly Egg McMuffin. Delicious. Head on over to the link in the description to learn more, because if you sign up for the Kickstarter, you'll get a bonus species a year early. The Mighty Titan. That's 13 unique species throughout 2025 to amaze your friends and family. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to call my dungeon master and tell them that I'm going to be playing as Godzilla from now on. Godzilla.
Yes, the Kickstarter for Year of Titans is well beyond its funding goal for Roll for Combat, and you can reserve your copy, your year, for either Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder 2nd Edition. You can do so in PDF or for the Foundry Virtual Tabletop. So you can grab your flavor in the format of your choice for $59. If you happen to want the PDF and the virtual tabletop elements, it is a $99 pledge. This is running through December 12th. And of course, because it is a Year of Titans, your deliveries will begin in January. Pretty sweet. So 13 in all. And of course, yes, through magic, I actually have those digital files in hardcover. Should also point out that I actually reviewed the Battlezoo Ancestries Classic Creatures on Saturday. Was it Saturday I dropped that? Maybe it was Sunday. I think, if I remember correctly, the last of my November reviews actually went up on December 1st. So, because I wasn't home on Black Friday until like really late. Anyway, check that out if you are curious about that. So, also joining us in chat, we've got Kevin King, Keithulu, W Forge. I think that's it. I think that's who we've got with us at the moment. And of course, I would not be surprised if the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D is lurking in the shadows as Gleeman RX joins us as well. Let's jump on into the tabletop gaming news tonight, because currently up on the GMT Games P500 list is the science fiction game Microverse. Here's the scoop. Microverse is a fast-playing, card-driven space 4X game. The game features lightning-fast turns, sub 5 seconds most of the time, and a short playtime, around 15 minutes per player, while packing in all the hallmarks of a full 4X game. Players will guide their civilizations from humble beginnings on a single planet to galaxy-spanning empires fighting over choice planets. Each player has a hand of cards which are tied to one of the game's 4 actions: build, colonize, explore, and mobilize. On a player's turn, they play one or more of these cards of the same action type to generate resource points that they will later use to perform these actions. These resource points are then increased by the number of worlds they have colonized that contain the matching action icon. Finally, the player performs the action and draws back up to their hand size. The core game of Microverse boasts 21 playable factions, with many more coming, that are radically varying as far as gameplay. Each faction has their own unique strength, weakness, and researchability. This researchability is tied to a special icon found on worlds as the players explore. Players can choose to colonize these worlds to make their faction even more unique and powerful. Players compete to be the first to complete one of 4 victory conditions. An expanse victory. The player must occupy 10 or more sectors at the start of their turn. Empire victory. Player must have all 6 of their colonies on planets at the start of their turn. Conquest victory. An immediate win when the player destroys another player's starting colony. And transcendence. I think it's transcendence, actually. As players explore, they'll uncover monoliths, evidence of the lost precursor civilization. After a number of these worlds equal to twice the number of players are found, the game clock starts and players only have 3 turns left. If no player wins by another victory condition before the clock elapses, the player who controls the most monoliths transcends. Microverse also contains quick and streamlined combat and political rounds. Every hallmark of 4X gaming is present here, but in a fraction of the time. Microverse is for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up. Once again, plays in around 15 minutes per player. It can be pre-ordered for the P500 price of $79 with an eventual MSRP of $109. So I have to say, price-wise, that sounds kind of high, but I went and took a peek to see what actually comes in this box, and it looks like it's got loads of counters and tokens and the hexagonal planet or system tiles. So I was like, oh, okay. Because first looking through the sell sheet information, it's sort of like, oh, okay, it doesn't sound like there's a whole heck of a lot to this. I think there's a lot more going on than it appears at first glance. So that is important. All right, let's see. We've got some more folks popping on into chat. Sarah D is with us, by the way, saying howdy. Lord Cos 2000, Zorak Zoran, number 1, except no substitutions, right? Game Master's Hobby, and let's see, Matthew Blackwell. I thought I saw someone else jumping on into chat. So welcome, everybody. Let me fix something real quick with my teleprompter. There we go. I forgot to get rid of something, so it was kind of cutting the real estate by half. And I'm like, what the hell word is that? Transcendence? Oh, no, it's transcendence. Oh, okay. That's why I was like kind of stumbling over that, because I'm like, I can't really read it. Damn it. Let me fix this. But this looks kind of cool. Looks pretty cool. So we shall see. We shall see. On to our next news piece, let's talk about some role-playing game news, because Goblin Archives and Space Penguin Inc. have released the remastered edition of the horror adventure The Mall. For liminal horror, here's the lowdown. It's The Thing, but set in a 1990s mall. The Mall is a wet, gooey, practical effects-filled tabletop role-playing game adventure set in a 1990s mall pulled out of time and space. The mall's denizens are trapped inside with a creature not bound by any one form. It slithers among them now, preparing to assimilate and imitate its victims until no one is left. This remastered edition includes 4 additional pages of content, a new map for the reworked lower levels of the mall, along with a complete overhaul on annotation and relinking for the entire text as far as the PDF goes. The mall features 14 named NPCs, 5 factions, and 30 keyed rooms. I would think, isn't it stores? Right? 30 keyed stores. A new character creation procedure that entangles players with the NPCs and locations. A doom clock measures how close the party and the mall are to doom. It's a monster table for creating unique iterations of the Children of Iman. This 40-page saddle-stitch zine with PDF carries an MSRP of $15 over at Space Penguin Inc. If you want, you can grab just the PDF for $9. Sweet. I like it's the thing in a mall. If you have been following the Gaming Gang for any length of time, you may have heard me share this story. When we were in high school, of course, I've always been the forever GM for the most part. But every once in a while, some of my friends would run stuff. And my best friend, Elliot Miller, ran Star Trek, the old FASA Star Trek role-playing game. And he did the thing for Star Trek. And it was actually really good. It was pretty cool. It was myself, Elliot's older brother. And when I say older brother, his brother was in his late 20s. His brother's friend, Russell, who was a gamer. And then Elliot's brother, Tom, his girlfriend, who if I remember right, I think her name is Kathy. And it was wild. It was pretty cool. And yes, I became infected. But of course, being Star Trek, there was a way to save everybody at the end. So that took place also. Kevin King says, you're trapped in a mall with Karens. Run from Walden Books to the arcade to survive. Make sure that you stock up on your Orange Julius. You know, interestingly enough, in the Chicago area, we didn't have Orange Julius. I think I saw one once, and that was probably in the 21st century in a mall. But it was funny. We would see stuff like, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, stuff that was taking place in California, and they're in a mall. You're like, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? What is that? We don't have that. The Man says, going to the mall this time of year is a horror adventure in itself. Yes. Got almost all of my Christmas shopping done. Hooray for me. Moving right along, Rowan, Rook, and Decard have joined forces with Bundle of Holding to bring you an offer featuring Heart, the City Beneath. Here's the deets on the deal. Delver. We've resurrected our December 2022 Heart Bundle featuring Heart, the City Beneath, the tabletop fantasy punk role-playing game of a nightmarish undercity from Rowan, Rook, and Decard. Heart is a standalone role-playing game of thrilling and desperate dungeon crawls in the unreal world below Spire, the mile-tall fantasy punk drow city of 1,000 gods. As a deadwalker, tech-armored Vermisian, I think it's Vermisian knight, junk mage, deep aperist, or other obsessed character, you delve into the outlawed cathedrals, predatory buildings, and twisted night forests of a horrifying undercity that will give you everything you've ever dreamed of, or kill you in the process. This revived offer gives you a new chance to get digital PDFs of the early Heart line for an unbeatable bargain price, for just $17.95. You'll get all 5 titles in this revived offer's Heart collection, the retail value of $61, as DRM-free PDFs, including the complete standalone Heart, the City Beneath rulebook, plus the free quick start, and the supplements Burned and Broken, for Mesian Black Ops, Sanctum, and the campaign frame Doors to Elsewhere. You can jump aboard, grab all 5 PDFs for that $17.95 through December 12th. 10% of your payment after gateway fees will be donated to the Diana Jones Award Emerging Designer Program. And there is a second bundle of holding, which has the later Heart releases also. We might talk about them tomorrow. All depends on what sort of news we've got floating around. So if you have ever been curious about Heart, the City Beneath, I know it's an offshoot of Spire, which I had always heard really good things about. For some reason, I think this is powered by the apocalypse. I might be wrong, but that's always the vibe I kind of had about Heart and Spire. But not a bad deal. Not a bad deal at all. And Darius Termina is joining us, says this looks kind of interesting. I agree. I agree with you on that. So if you're not done saving money yet, Free League Publishing has teamed up with Humble Bundle for an absolutely fantastic money-saving offer. I have got the skinny. So many tabletop role-playing games, so little time. Gather up your party for endless adventure with this bundle of tabletop role-playing games from Free League Publishing. The Free League Publishing RPG Mega Bundle features a wide variety of, well, you guessed it, role-playing games for you to enjoy with your friends. Get explorers kits containing rule books, source books, and campaign resources for Forbidden Lands, Tales from the Loop, Mutineer Zero, and more. Get everything you need to embark on an epic journey together and help support direct relief with your purchase. You can score all 29 PDFs for a minimum donation of $25. You heard me right. 29 PDFs, $25. That's the minimum donation. And as you can see, this also includes Dragonbane Zoinks. It's got the core set and the bestiary. It's got the core set for Twilight 2000. I mean, it's insane. It is insane. It has all of the major releases for Mutineer Zero. It doesn't include any of the zone books, the various different like sector books. I think maybe that's what they were called. Maybe they're called sector books. But it's got all I think it's 5 of them, if I remember correctly. It's got that. I mean, this is insane value. I mean, we're talking years and years of role-playing goodness for $25. My mind is blown. Kathy Evans is popping on in, as is Melwinius from York. Good to see you both. Welcome aboard. I see chat disconnected again, but it's like we're okay. Here's the weird thing. It seems like since I changed to the MetroNet as opposed to Xfinity, we dropped no frames ever. Now, of course, I say that from here on out, we'll have disconnections every night. But the chat disconnects multiple times a stream. It's strange. So it'll be like, chat disconnected. Please wait while we try to reconnect you. And then it's like, oh, successfully connected. And when it does that, I always like take a peek at OBS Studio and see, are we dropping any frames? And it's like, nope, not a single one. So you may have noticed that the video quality is sharper on the stream because I can stream at a higher bit rate. Yes. Let's finish up with our final news piece because back in print is the first issue of Journey into the Madlands from RPG Ramblings Publishing and Exalted Funeral. Here's what I know. Now that you've destroyed our world, what do you want to do next? After all, it's easy to destroy the modern world with plagues, ICBMs, nanites, climate disasters, or even a stray meteor. After all, it only takes 5 minutes of pondering to turn our mundane and predictable world into a world twisted by destruction and ruled by chaos. After you've destroyed the earth, the hard part is knowing what to do next. It's one thing to make the world more dangerous, but it's another thing to make those changes both interesting and fun. It takes hours of effort to create dynamic encounters and evocative locations. There's no joy in spending hours staring at a blank computer screen or notebook, waiting for ideas to arrive. With Journey into the Madlands, we did the hard work for you. This scene started out small, but as contributions of art and writing rolled in, it was realized that the traditional digest-sized format could not contain all the apocalyptic goodness. Almost overnight, the humble little zine mutated into a magazine. It's now jam-packed with intriguing locations, dangerous ruins, insidious enclaves, mutated monsters, and nefarious NPCs. Locations, NPCs, and creatures, while written into a mini setting, are modular, making it easy for you to pick only the elements you want to fuel your game. Except for the bestiary section, this scene is also written to be system neutral. Focuses on providing interesting write-ups and plenty of plot hooks to aid the game master in crafting memorable adventures. Now, OSR stat blocks are used for the bestiary, and that makes them compatible with an OSR clone of your choice. Now, the creatures were treated as part of the environment. The write-ups don't focus on combat, but instead they delve into the utility of the creatures, which provide complications they may cause. Also, many of the creatures have plot hooks to make encounters with them memorable. The 60-page softcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $30. You can grab just the PDF alone over at Drive-Thru RPG for $10. Well. I've seen this before. For some strange reason, I don't believe I shared news about it, but I believe I stumbled across the Kickstarter for this, and it sort of piqued my interest. Sounds pretty cool. Artwork looks good. It's got a little bit of a hex crawl there. Granted, it's like 7 hexes, but nice, very nice. I think this originally came out in PDF about 3 years ago, but I don't think it was available in print. Or if it was available in print, it wasn't through Exalted Funeral, because Exalted Funeral is indicating this as being new. So it's very possible this is the first time that it's been in print from Exalted Funeral. All righty then, that is it for the news tonight. Now, of course, I was just talking about Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, are affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're planning on visiting Drive-Thru RPG, Storyteller's Vault, Game Masters Guild, what the hell, Dungeon Masters Guild, Game Masters Guild, what the fuck am I thinking there? Role-playing game store. If you're going here, role-playing online game store.com. Yeah. Gonna go to Dungeon Masters Guild, War Game Vault. Please stop by thegaminggang.com. First, click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale, and all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Big thank you for those of you who popped on over to Drive-Thru RPG or any of the other One Bookshelf sites for Black Friday through Cyber Monday and used the banner ads that we've got, because I believe in total, I think it was about $1,200 in sales. Not in commissions, in sales. I wish it was $1,200. Yes. And of course, if you like this video, by all means, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always swing on by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Ooh, that's cold. Speaking of cold, it's a little chilly in the Duct Tape Studios tonight. It's not terrible. It's not like, there's been a few times it was like -20 outside, and I'm down here trying to do a show, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're not doing an hour and a half tonight. Anywho. So big thank you to those of you out there who stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang and make not small donations, such as our good friend of the show, the Madman, my friend from high school, Scott Weagle, John Webster, Agile Monk, and Craig Watkins, all very recently stopped on by and made not small donations. So thanks if you happen to use the banner ads and or stop by paypal.me, the Gaming Gang. Much appreciated. So who was it? Gloomin RX said, yep, they use the affiliate link this weekend. Thank you very much. He said the $1,200 was not them. No, but funny enough, it was about 20 people. In fact, there was one person who had 2 purchases that added up to like $200, and then they canceled them. I was like, okay. I was like, one was like, I think it was like $124. The other was like $76. And then all of a sudden I saw it's like refunded. And I was like, well, that's weird. I mean, I could see if it was like, I bought a $20 PDF, and I was like, no, wait, no, hang on. Matthew Blackwell says it is cold AF in North Florida, 42 degrees right now. Yeah, when I used to travel around the country delivering the RVs and stuff, I would go through areas, and it was always weather that they normally did not experience. Like a snowstorm in Dallas. It wasn't like blizzard conditions, or a big snowstorm that hit Washington, D.C. when I was there that actually shut down the entire city. I told this story. I think it was last week I was making reference to that story. So I was like, okay. All righty. All right. So let's see who has popped on into chat recently. Maddie C is with us. Let's see who else. I'm pretty sure I said hello to Bradley Thorpe already. Christy, there you go. Says, new to the channel, really enjoying it. Well, thank you very much. Welcome aboard. Make yourself comfy and cozy. A few things to mention, then we will get on to tonight's topic, which, if you tuned in a little bit late, I mentioned throughout the month of December, except for Thursdays, because we're still going to be doing the Let's Build a Fantasy Role-Playing Game series. But on Tuesdays and Wednesdays throughout December, we're going to actually explore some classic 20th century Dungeons and Dragons adventures, kind of talk about getting the most out of them now, not necessarily using them with Dungeons and Dragons, using retro clones, OSE, anything that's got kind of an old school flavor to it. Doesn't necessarily have to be, even like Castles and Crusades, obviously enough. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And tonight we are going to dive on in. We're going to talk about B5, Horror on the Hill. Should also mention that I have not run these, and I do not own these modules that we'll be looking at. I mean, I had the PDFs. I don't own physical copies, so it's not like we're gonna like flip through as we talk about them. I will share some images, but it's mainly conversational, and there will be spoilers. So don't know what to tell you. You know, 40, 45, 35-year-old Dungeons and Dragons adventures. Yeah, sorry. We're gonna spoil some of the surprises. Bradley Thorpe said, thanks for the review of the Pathfinder Monster Core. Wow, that's been a while. So really help them understand the book. Thank you. Well, very cool. Very nice. Glad to be of service. That's what I aim to try to do with my reviews. I try to make them shorter. They used to be half hour, 45 minutes. So I have tried to shorten them up and try to hit some key points as opposed to getting into like the minutia of things. All right. So a few things I did want to mention. First of all, I did launch the gently used game 50/50 sale over on thegaminggang.com, the newly redesigned thegaminggang.com. Start off with over 220 items. I think we're just under 200 right now. Kind of quiet. I thought there was going to be a little more excitement about the sale because there is a lot available. And one of the things that I did was I actually went and took a look at a lot of these things. Some of them are out of print, and they are gently used. So for the most part, I'm selling stuff that they were just reviewed or I picked up just along the way. Some of the stuff's still in shrink. But I went and I checked to make sure that you will be getting pretty much the lowest price outside of going to eBay or getting into an auction in the secondary market. So that's something I was aiming to do. Give you a great example. Like I just reviewed The Electric State and also happen to have, I had two. Now I only have one copy of The Electric State in shrink. So that's part of the sale. A lot of stuff, folks. So by all means, take a peek. And what I am doing is I am going to split it down the middle after the PayPal gateway fees, whatever they charge me. And I'm going to donate half of whatever is sold to the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. So that will be the charity who will benefit from the sale. The sale runs through December 14th. Something else I wanted to mention, I'm sure some folks out there are kind of like, hey, Jeff, how come you're not doing a video about Elon Musk buying Hasbro? Because every other content creator is out there doing that. You know what? Last week, talked about Elon Musk and Dungeons and Dragons, and that is basically what I had to say. So what? He tweets, how much is Hasbro? And then all of a sudden, everybody's doing half-hour videos about Elon Musk buying Hasbro. Come on. It's like, man. I try to avoid clickbait. Sometimes it's stuff where people are going, Jeff, aren't you going to talk about this? Elon Musk buying Hasbro, it's not news because it's highly unlikely it's happening. So he's just trolling like he normally does. I will say I was amazed. It was a comment I ended up eventually just deleting. Somebody commented about what a leftist elitist I am because I was, doubting Elon Musk's gaming cred and stuff. Because I said Elon Musk doesn't play Dungeons and Dragons. That maybe he did at some point, when he was younger and that. Elon Musk does not sit around playing Dungeons and Dragons. Plays video games because he's tweeted about playing video games. Never saw him tweet talking about playing Dungeons and Dragons. So anyway, this commenter is calling me a leftist elitist, and they're defending Elon Musk. And I'm thinking to myself, so you're calling me an elite and defending a guy who's one of the richest people in the world. Are you fucking kidding me? It's like, what are you, a fucking idiot? So I said, hey, I didn't say that he doesn't game. I said he doesn't play D&D. He's never talked about playing D&D. And then Ass Clown just continued on with their Trumper nonsense, right? Hey, remember, I've said before, you know what? I know a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump. People can vote for whoever they want to vote for. But I do notice, and this is just coming from the past few years, I notice people who are like batshit crazy right wing, just like there's batshit crazy left wing, right? But batshit crazy right wing go out of their way to fucking comment on shit. And it's like I would post things on my personal Facebook page. And then I have people who I had absolutely no idea who they were. And they would like throw their 2 cents in. And I'd be like, I'm sorry, who invited you to throw your comment in? I wouldn't go and stumble across something because they weren't people who I was friends with or anything like that. I'm like, how the fuck did they get here? What the hell's going on? I was like, what the hell? I have noticed that. And, it's kind of a sad thing. And I'm not going to go off on a rant on this. I'm just going to sum this up. It's just a really sad thing at how angry people are. When I was, 20, 30, 40, people weren't just constantly angry. And a lot of people who are constantly angry, really, if you look at it, they don't have a reason to be angry. Sure, there are folks out there who have every damn right to be really pissed off at the world. I get it. But there are a lot of people out there who are they're just always looking for a fight or a shitstorm to kick up just because they're just miserable human beings. It's like, I don't know. Matthew Blackwell says leftist is just a buzzword from the far right my party uses. I don't know. Act like we were downtrodden. Chris Lundgren says they're conservative. They also think Elon Musk would be bad to buy the game. I'll also stayed at Jeff's side. I don't necessarily need people to defend me, but yeah, I'm pretty liberal with people's comments. I'm not like, people can disagree with me and stuff like that. That's fine. When they start like personally attacking me, I'm just like, I don't need your shit. Delete. I don't care. Kevin Gig says, I'm in the middle. I'm pissed regardless who wins. Sean O'Donnell says, some folks act like you've attacked them personally, have no intention trying to see it any other way. Yeah, that's really the big thing nowadays is there is no compromise. There is no looking at things or putting yourself in anyone else's shoes. Matthew Blackwell says they're an old school Reagan era conservative. They're a dying breed, non-douchebag segment of the conservative movement. So Sharon O'Donnell says a properly working democracy is one in which everyone is at least a little unsatisfied. Oh yeah, well that I agree with you on that. I do agree with you on that. So Melania says they think Trump's going to be a good thing for the U.S., even though they're over on the other side of the pond. I don't think it will be. Hey, but you know what? We'll see. We'll see what happens. You never know. I have a good idea, but anyway, I mean, it's not that. It's just, I just had to laugh. Ah, you leftist elitist. And it's like, you're defending Elon Musk, a guy who wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire. And you're calling me an elitist? I was like, get the fuck out of here. All righty then. So tonight, as we will all throughout this month, we are going to explore a classic Dungeons and Dragons adventure. But first, I think it is just about time for a brief intermission.
Greetings to Father, who works all year for the family and outdoes himself at this joyous season with lots of surprises for everyone. Greetings to Mother, that miracle worker of the home whose loving effort seems sometimes like magic. And greetings to little brother, usually a terror, but somehow since he visited Santa at the department store, he's not been himself at all. Greetings to Sister, who was so busy decorating the house with mistletoe and then seemed to forget it was there. Greetings to Grandma, Grandpa, and all your uncles and aunts. May you gather round the table for your Christmas feast in the joyous tradition.
And may your celebration be filled with all the good things of life. And may the spirit of peace and happiness, love and good fellowship, which is the true meaning of Christmas, encompass your entire family.
What we want to say is that the management and staff of this theater, all of us, all of you, good luck, good health, good times, and a very Merry Christmas.
Now spend this Christmas with your special memory of Elvis. Yes, Elvis Christmas. All your favorite Christmas songs together in one great offer. All sung for the late Elvis Presley. You get the first Noel. The angel did sing the song. Winter Wonderland. Walking in winter wonderland. Holly leaves and Christmas trees. It's that time of year. Elvis Christmas, an album you want to play over and over again this holiday season and share with friends and family alike. Who else but Elvis could give such great warmth and joy to this season of seasons? And there's more. The wonderful world of Christmas. Oh, it won't seem like Christmas without you. I'll take you in my arms and there you stay. If I get home on Christmas Day, silver bells.
Elvis Christmas, the album you will want for your family, and a collection of Christmas songs that would be a perfect gift for any friend or relative. Elvis Christmas is just $7.98 per album, just $8.98 for tape. Here's how to order yours today.
To order Elvis Christmas, please call toll-free 1-800-327-27...
Action. Okay, cut. That's fine, fellas. Thanks, Duke. See you in the morning.
Good night, Mr. Wellman. Folks, there's a little rough and tumble for you. But even in motion pictures, if you were to have a man fighting for his life every 5 minutes or so, it'd seem a little bloodthirsty. Well, in real life, every 5 minutes, one American is attacked by tuberculosis, TB. Murph, you got those Christmas seals?
Coming up, Mr. Wayne.
TB attacks at any age, old folks right on down the line to the kids, like these on this year's Christmas seals. Maybe you have a couple of youngsters like these, a little older, a little younger. The point is that Christmas seals fight tuberculosis, and when you buy and use Christmas seals, you're helping to prevent TB from getting at them, or at any of us. You never know whose life you're saving when you buy Christmas seals, but the important thing is that you are helping to save lives. So please answer your Christmas seal letter today. And if it hasn't arrived, mail your contribution to your Tuberculosis Association. Ask them to send you your Christmas seals. Thank you very much.
So that Elvis Christmas album commercial is from fall of 1977. So Elvis is dead. And Elvis is apparently not been dead very long, if I remember correctly, and this is off the top of my head. So I remember being a kid and being in a grocery store, and it was the headline on the newspaper. And I could have swore Elvis died in the summer. So it's kind of like, it's Christmas time. Happy holidays, everybody. Let's listen to the dearly departed king of rock and roll. It's like, what? Kind of weird. Kind of weird. All righty. So tonight we are actually going to discuss a classic Dungeons and Dragons adventure. We're going to kind of touch on some of the highlights of the adventure and kind of explore opportunities to use this adventure these days. And I don't necessarily mean by, busting out Dungeons and Dragons or AD&D. I mean, utilizing it with a modern sensibility. And even if you want to use like a retro clone or even a more modern fantasy role-playing game, like if you want to use Shadow Dark, super easy. Castles and Crusades, already mentioned as well. So Keith Lewis says, Christmas songs from the guy who just died on the crapper. Brought to you by K-Tel. Anyone, no doubt, has anybody see Bubba Hotep? Yes. Who just said that? Shadow Dell said, Elvis isn't dead. He just went home. I have always got to point out, Beatles fan. Elvis. Yeah, it used to be, it was like you're either an Elvis fan or a Beatles fan. You're not both. I don't think that's really so much the case anymore, but it was when I was growing up, always a Beatles fan. Always the Beatles or the Beatles. Psst, hey, Beatles. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about B5, which is Horror on the Hill. It was written by Douglas Niles. Interior artwork was provided by Jim Holloway. This module was released for Basic Dungeons and Dragons in 1983. If I remember correctly, I think it clocks in at 36 pages. And this was part of the B series. So the B series was for Basic, and it was a line of modules which was aimed at introducing Dungeons and Dragons to new players for the most part, or a little bit later in the series. I think it more kind of aimed towards just being low-level adventures. So keeping in mind, this was designed for basic Dungeons and Dragons, so it could be run with advanced D&D, but not vice versa. So, like, as an example, we're going to talk about some AD&D adventures. And you couldn't run that with basic, just because there were a lot of things going on in AD&D, classes for one, that just was not in basic. So the Madman says they still have their original copy of this adventure. Nice. Very nice. This is, I was going to say, this is available at Drive-Thru RPG and, of course, Dungeon Masters Guild. If you want the physical reproduction, it is $9.99. And I want to say the PDF is $4.99. So once again, as I mentioned, I don't own this module. I have never run this module. I've never owned it, but I thought this was pretty interesting. And I have kind of corrected the colors on this. So I don't think the PDF is as dark with the blacks and that as this is. So just saying, because I think the Drive-Thru RPG and Dungeon Masters Guild PDFs are just scans, which I think are kind of a lot of the, late 70s, early 80s modules. All right, so let's talk about this adventure. So this is designed for 5 to 10 characters, levels 1 through 3. So the lower the levels, the more characters you need. So kind of using this in a modern setting or modern sessions, first thing you got to address is you are not going to have 10 players at your table. So it always, I find amazing when I'm looking at some of the old Dungeons and Dragons modules, or some of them, it's like, oh, it's for 7 to 14 players. It's like, really? I don't know. I mean, in the 80s, could you get 14 players around the table? I don't know. So this is not a tournament module because this is designed as a starter adventure, beginner's adventure. Around this time, a lot of the modules that came out for especially advanced Dungeons and Dragons were aimed at being conversions of tournament modules from either Gen Con or Origins. So, because it says that, you're looking at 5 to 10 players, you're going to have to call some of the encounters out, especially the wandering monsters and stuff like that. And you're going to trim down the number of monsters. So you want to keep that in mind. Matthew Blackwell says, any of these old modules work with either of their 2 favorite games, Basic Fantasy and Castles and Crusades? Oh, yeah. Easy. Kevin King says, I like Doug Niles' A Cult of the Reptile God. Yeah, I like that one quite a bit. And Nighthawks. Got to be honest. I have not seen Nighthawks, but found his Moonshay and Dragonlance work a bit banal. Never tried this module. Smoking Pots is joining us in chat. Good to see you. Said Tim Cass used to say 10 to 12 PCs was the norm in the early days. That's a big table. But I think that's also one of the indicators that a lot of these adventures were tournament adventures. So, all right. So the setup here is that the adventurers are going to explore the hill, which is really, well, it's not necessarily a mountain. I would say it's more along the lines of try to picture a bluff. That's how I see it. And they're going to start off at Guido's Fort. I'm telling you right now, I guarantee you hundreds of dungeon masters took on the role of Guido and started channeling really bad Italian stereotypes. I just know it. I just know it. I'm telling you. So this actually makes for a really good replacement for Keep on the Borderlands, because like the Caves of Chaos for Keep on the Borderlands, they don't make sense. There is no actual kind of like dungeon ecology to them. They're not to the extent where it's just funhouse dungeon, but not far off from it. So you could actually easily combine, if you wanted, you could combine the keep from Keep on the Borderlands with B5 Horror on the Hill, because Guido's Fort is not statted at all. I mean, there is nothing. There's a few paragraphs devoted to it, kind of talking about, well, the prices are probably going to be more expensive for stuff. That's about it. No NPCs, nothing. Whereas the actual wilderness adventuring and the dungeon delving in Horror on the Hill, in my opinion, is way more solid than Keep on the Borderlands. Once again, just my opinion. That's all. So the premise is the characters have gathered at Guido's Fort, and they are going to cross this river, which is a mile wide. So they're going to cross over the river, and they're going to explore the monster-infested hill. And I like the premise of having this mile-wide river dividing the two, because otherwise it would be just way too easy for, the monsters to just, overwhelmed Guido's Fort. So that does make some sense. What is not strong, and this is not unusual with older Dungeons and Dragons modules, is the hook. There is none. The hook is, all right, you're here, you're going to go explore, and other people have gone before you, they've never returned. That's it. So what I would probably look to do is try to get something where, the Baron, the King, whatever, this is easily dropped into any campaign, is, essentially offering bounties for characters to go and, map the hill, to go and explore the hill and to clear it out of monsters, because they want to move in and take over that area. Something along those lines. Not just, oh, hey, you're all sitting there in the fort and you're heading on over. So the first portion of Horror on the Hill features the exploration of the hill. There's really nothing as far as like no adventuring, no encounters or anything like that crossing the river. Essentially, it's mentioned that the players are going to have to either A, hire fishermen to ferry them across and then leave them there, And hopefully the players are smart enough to actually realize that they have to make some sort of arrangements to get back across the river again, back to the other side, you'd think, or they have to buy their own boat. And it's kind of a breakdown, a little bit of, what it's going to cost. Personally, I think the pricing for them to just be ferried across is like pretty crazy. I mean, I get it. The fishermen are afraid and all these, but it's like 20 gold. But they could buy their own boat for 80. It's like, so the fishermen expect you to pay like a quarter of the value of their boats. It's like, okay. So there's a lot of stuff going on the outside of the hill. And some of the highlights are is the haunted graveyard, which is infested by skeletons, and there's some ghouls. And then we also have the two witches who are not evil. They're essentially neutral, and they're actually willing to wheel and deal with the players as long as the players don't pull some murder hobo shit on them. Right? I mean, they're willing to be nice to them. And it's kind of funny because their little hovel kind of has a TARDIS thing going on. Oh, it's a lot bigger on the inside. Hey, all right. So I think the two witches would be really interesting to play. And if the player characters decide they're going to be messing, they think they're going to mess with these two little old ladies, yeah, you could see a total party kill. You easily could. But they've got some good treasure that they can lay out on the players as well. Now, they're going to offer the player characters a quest if the player characters want to accept it. There is a cave with a family of ogres, and the witches want them gone. So they offer some magic items. To be honest, I probably wouldn't tell them what's on offer. Just wheel and deal with the player characters to go. And if I remember correctly, it's bring back the head of the father ogre, because there's a father, a mother, and two children, well, young ogres. So we have got that. One of my favorite encounters or set pieces that you're going to find in this wilderness aspect of the adventure is actually going to be the tribe of Neanderthals that the player characters are going to encounter. And the Neanderthals do not speak common. They can't communicate verbally with the player characters. And they're more than willing to be friendly to the player characters. They've got nothing against the player characters. In fact, they're trying to survive all these monsters and stuff like that too. I would find it really interesting to utilize them as a faction, because now you're going to task your players with trying to figure out how are they going to communicate with the Neanderthals. And the Neanderthals are not stupid. They have intelligence. They just don't speak common. So they can't, verbally communicate. They can, pantomime and stuff like that to get ideas across. And I think that would be pretty cool utilizing in like more modern mechanics. So maybe you've got the player character who's, like the wizard who's got the high intelligence and that can understand what point the Neanderthals are trying to get across. And then they're going to need to use the character with the high charisma to try to, carry conversations back and forth. I think that would be kind of cool. And the Neanderthals can become powerful allies to the player characters as well. So something else that you want to keep in mind. The big deal on the hill is it's not abandoned, it's like dilapidated, and it is a monastery, and it's being used by goblins and hobgoblins. And the king of the hobgoblins is looking to assemble an army to go and destroy Guido's fort. So that is essentially what the player characters are going to stumble across. Now, of course, remember, this is a classic D&D adventure, so that there's no big plot lines or anything like that. This is all pretty much, hey, this is what's going on. Knock yourself out, right? Which, for a lot of people, we love that because it gives us a sandbox to play in, as opposed to, okay, well, here's the adventure. It's been all plotted out, and this leads to this, which leads to that, and then that goes to there. That's not what you'll see in the old adventures. Interesting little side note is that B5 is the first time that actual read aloud text boxes were implemented fully in an adventure. It had been kind of experimented with a little bit prior to this adventure, but this was the first time. But it's also read aloud that's telling the player characters essentially what they see when they go into a cave or a room or whatever. It's not big, long, oh, you feel this, and which we've talked about before. That should not be in your read aloud. Should never be telling the player characters what they think, what they feel. If you could be like, oh yeah, you're, goosebumps on your arms. Yeah, that's fine, but not emotionally what they're feeling. And of course, this doesn't delve into that. And it's just a few sentences, which is what has always been recommended as your read aloud anyway, to not go into paragraph after paragraph after paragraph, because players begin to tune out. So what happens is we end up with this monastery that is actually going to be the entranceway into a dungeon below. So we'll have the dungeon below, and this is where, for the most part, the player characters are going to encounter goblins, hobgoblins, some bugbears as well. And there's some other creatures that they run across. They'll stumble across like lava lizards. This is a little further down into the dungeon. Giant centipedes are some of the wanderers in that. So if you were going to be utilizing this at your game table now, what you would probably need to do, unless you're the sort of game master out there who likes having tons and tons of combat going on, you would have to go through this and kind of cull out some of the combat encounters. And sadly, there isn't a ton of interactivity in this adventure. There are some good traps, but one of the things that I always like, and we see this especially in really well done old school adventures, is that there's always something there for the players to mess around with. And usually they know if they mess around with it, it's bad news. But then they still can't avoid pushing that shiny red button that says, do not push. Kevin King's commenting how cold it is in his neck of the woods. 23 degrees. That's about what I think we're at in the Yorkville area. Coco B is with us, said classic AD&D. Don't mess with old people in a dangerous area. They live that long for a reason. Oh, yeah. Mike is with us. Welcome aboard. Good to see you. Gleeman RX says those reload boxes remind them of old text-based computer game adventures with the dialogue describing each scene. A little bit. Although the reality is, I think even in the old D&D, yes, Keithulu knows the reference I'm making, the shiny candy-like button. For you. You idiot. Yeah, but we won't get into that because the creator's a real scumbag. Ooh, what a scum. Anywho, so as far as using it these days, because we already know you're probably going to have, hey, if you've got a big group, you're probably lucky as a game master that you've got 6 players plus yourself. So right there and then, if you're going to try to run this fairly as written, you're going to have to trim out, as I mentioned previously, some of the excess where, like giant centipedes. Oh, it's 1 to 8. You might want to make it like 1 to 4 that you're rolling. Now, strangely enough, there isn't really a whole lot of info about the game plan that our Hobgoblin King has. It's just essentially presented that his plan is to assemble an army to go and destroy Guido's fort. That's about it. But as you go further down into the dungeon, you are going to find some pretty good set pieces as far as some of the encounters with the goblins, hobgoblins, and bugbears. Something that's also very important that I think sometimes gamers out there, game masters, I should say, out there, who aren't overly familiar with like the old school approach, morale is very important because otherwise you are going to be sitting there running combat encounters till the end of time. So important to keep in mind that if these are any sort of opponents that possess any sort of intelligence, they should have a morale score that you're going to want to utilize. So as a group of goblins starts taking casualties, they're far more likely to take off. This is not an easy adventure by any stretch of the imagination, because eventually the player characters will reach the 3rd level. And on that 3rd level is actually a young red dragon. Sort of like, okay, wait a second. So this is for like levels 1 through 3. And if you were running Dungeons and Dragons as written from the rule book, if I remember correctly, basic, if you needed to level up, you had to go and spend some time leveling up. Like you would go to a town or something like that. So I could conceivably see Guido's fort being kind of the base of operations like the keep is in the keep on the Borderlands. But you would have to have made arrangements with those fishermen to pick you back up, or have bought the boat to travel back across. So it would, the way this adventure is written, at least to me, it's going to need some hand waving as far as the character advancement up to 3rd level. Of course, if you start off with third level characters, obviously enough, you would need fewer of them. So some of the things that I would look to do with the monastery, as well as the kind of caves underneath the first level of the dungeon. Number one, I got to be honest, I would get rid of the young red dragon. For one, it just doesn't really fit in the adventure. It's almost feels like it's sort of like, oh, well, the game is Dungeons and Dragons. This is a beginning adventure. Got to squeeze a dragon in here someplace. And even though the dragon doesn't have a whole lot of hit points, it's probably still going to be relatively difficult for the players to take out unless there's, 10. Somebody had mentioned Pete Rackowitz said hirelings. Yes. What's funny though? I don't know about your experiences, but I've noticed that especially nowadays, even players who are playing retro clones, the players don't really like to bring in hirelings. Henchmen are okay, but hirelings are not really welcomed on board, which is really weird. Gleeman RX says it's a beginner level adventure, so squishy level ones won't be able to afford those hirelings. No, especially if they have to buy that boat. Off the Shelf Board Game Reviews is with us. Says Candlekeeper, or whatever it's called, did the same. It's a white dragon that absolutely destroys the party half the time. There was another adventure. And yes, I know we've got the, what is it? Horde of the Dragon Queen. The Tyranny of Dragons is what they call it now. Yes, obviously there would be dragons. There was another 5e adventure that kind of did the same thing, where they threw in a blue dragon. It might have been Tyranny of Dragons, where the characters are like first level and they're witness to like a battle going on, and they're in the midst of this raid or whatever, this attack. And there's a blue dragon shows up, and it's kind of like, really? And damn well, it's like, okay. And it even talks about how, the players need not do anything with the dragon because they'll end up being killed. Stormwreck Island. Yeah, I think you might be right. Which came with the, I think it wasn't that the Essentials kit. That was Kip Coolidge, who I believe might be a first-time visit here in chat with us. Keldon's with us as well. Good to see you, Keldon. Anyway, so as far as the monastery and the dungeon area, personally, I would just try to look at trying to like trim some of the combat. And I would, like I said, I would absolutely drop the red dragon, because for one, you're looking at, it just doesn't, it's weird. It's just there. It really doesn't serve any purpose outside of, oh, hey, there's a dragon. And even though it's a young red dragon, I guarantee it could pretty much toast some of the player characters pretty quickly. And then it's got like a really large treasure. It's like, wow, really? It's like, okay. So what I would probably look to do is, because we have like lava lizards, I would probably use the lava lizards as far as kind of the bigger bads down in the third level, as opposed to the dragon. I would want to try to flesh out more with the Hobgoblin King trying to raise this army. And I would I know it's a pretty common trope in adventures where, you've got the factions at odds. So I would look to probably try to introduce a competing faction. Now, one cool thing that I like about the monastery dungeon area is there is a group of Neanderthals that have been captured. And if the player characters have already encountered the tribe of Neanderthals, they can obviously release the Neanderthals and hopefully escort them back to the tribe's camp so they can benefit from that. You can also use the Neanderthals to bolster the player character's ranks if need be, keeping in mind they're going to be NPCs. They're not going to be player character replacements. But I think all in all, as a beginning adventure for Dungeons and Dragons, Horror on the Hill is pretty decent. Especially when we take a look and we see, it came out in 1983. It's for basic Dungeons and Dragons, so it didn't have as many options available to it as, say, advanced Dungeons and Dragons would. But all in all, I got to be honest, I actually like Horror on the Hill better than the classic Keep on the Borderlands. It doesn't really explain game mastering in quite the way that Keep on the Borderlands does, which Keep on the Borderlands also does not necessarily like handhold you through the process of running an adventure. Early D&D was never good at doing that. But I do think that there's a lot more going on. This shares a bit in common. Not necessarily thematically, but just the amount of content wise it's packed into 36 pages or so. A little bit like Isle of Dread. A little bit. The hill itself, the wilderness adventuring, little bit like Isle of Dread. And then, of course, we've got the monastery and the dungeon. So, pretty decent. So, if I were going to be utilizing Horror on the Hill with a modern system, once again, I would like to try to expand upon the Hobgoblin King. And, for one, it's not even explained why he wants to go wipe out Guido's fort outside of, humans, right? Humans and elves and dwarves and that. Well, we got to go kill them, I guess. And I would look to try to introduce some like faction play into that. I think the Neanderthal tribe, in my opinion, is also something that's kind of a highlight. I like that. I think that you could get some good role-playing moments out of it, especially considering that the Neanderthals don't lack intelligence. They just lack the ability to verbally communicate with the player characters. I also really like the two witches. I think they're pretty cool. The Wandering Monsters tables for both the wilderness adventuring and also for the dungeon levels, I think it's kind of weak. I really do. I think it's kind of weak, and I think it's a little too random. As far as the haunted graveyard, the fact that we've got ghouls there, I think it's a little too overpowered for the player characters, especially if you're looking at all first level characters. I mean, it could turn into a bloodbath. As far as the treasure throughout the adventure, there are some magic items. There is pretty much it. If I remember correctly, I don't recall running across anything that's really a standout. Most of it is stuff like from the book or books, I should say. So all in all, I got to say, I think it's a pretty solid adventure to start off with and for game masters to cut their teeth on as far as basic Dungeons and Dragons went. And I think it still holds up pretty well if a modern game master wants to make some tweaks and try to bring a little more story out of the proceedings as opposed to it being as sandboxy as it turns out to be. Chris Lundgren says they got the rules cyclopedia print on demand on Drive-Thru RPG, came out great. Just too many RPGs to run and not enough time in a lifetime. Off the Shelf Board Game Review says, I'm a dork. It's Sunless Citadel, not Candlekeep, that is the killer white dragon. What's the third level adventure? Isn't that the Sunless Citadel? That's for third level with Meepo the Kobold. So Melanius says they just spent $10 over on paypal.me/the gaming gang. Might not always be on the same page, but you are decent, Jeff. Hey, I try. So Off the Shelf Board Game Review says, yes, it's Meepo. I don't remember a white dragon in that. I remember the weird tree thing because I had actually considered exploring that adventure to get into a little more detail on that one. So, knowingness is saying hello to everyone gets harder as I grow. I don't know. We've actually had like 70 people at the same time watching. I know it's not that big a deal, but Chris Lundgren asks if it's possible to create an actual haunted house module. And if so, what to suggest as an adventure hook? You can always take a look at Secret of what the hell? I always forget it. I want to say Sandhurst, but it's not Sandhurst. Sandmarsh. That's it. Saltmarsh. That's it. I was like, wait a second. Hey, oh yeah. Keith Lewis says, yeah. Calcrix, the wormling white dragon. Yeah, but he's a wormling. I mean, he's real little. Yes, Calcrix. Yes, I remember. I was running Sunless Citadel for my nephew, his girlfriend at the time, and another friend of his. And yes, Calcrix cooked Meepo to a crisp. And my nephew and the other two are like, what? Calcrix, I'm Meepo. That was the voice I was using. Yeah, I was thinking like big white, like a big white dragon. I'm like, really? I don't remember that. Oh, and then I guess I will do Sunless Citadel because you know what? It's pre-2000. Because I said what we're going to do is we're going to explore Dungeons and Dragons adventures from the 20th century. So we will be doing that. So yes, I will include the Sunless Citadel. So all in all, B5, Horror on the Hill, solid. I personally like it better than Keep on the Borderlands. It may not necessarily be your cup of tea. To me, it does feel more, well, the dungeon ecology is a weaker element of it, but it is far better than the Caves of Chaos in Keep on the Borderlands. So Chris Lundgren asks, what's the worst module? I can't tell you that because I have not read every D&D, AD&D, first edition, second edition, third edition modules out there. So really can't tell you. And I know there are folks out there who are huge. I almost said proponents, but they're not proponents. Huge haters on specific modules, but I haven't read them, so I can't tell you. All right. Anyway, so something a little bit different tonight. So I thought for the month of December, just have some fun. We'll talk about some old Dungeons and Dragons adventures, kind of talk about some of their highlights, maybe discuss some tweaks we might make as far as trying to present them at your game table these days. Tomorrow night, we're going to talk about a module that some people feel is in the top 5 all time of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And we are going to talk about Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. Yes. So we'll dig on into that on tomorrow's show. All right, that is it for this time out. Don't forget the gently used game sale, the 50/50 game sale is currently going on over at thegaminggang.com. There are about 200 items that are still left if you want to take a peek, and guarantee you that you are looking at some of the lowest prices you will find on any of those. Game Masters Hobby says they know I love the adventure that was included in the newest Planescape setting. I thought it was so clever for Wizards of the Coast to produce an adventure for Planescape where the player characters never go to a different plane of existence. I thought that was magical. Chris Lenghorn asks, can we cover slave pits under the city? We are going to talk about the Slaver series. Some of the videos we're actually going to talk about the series. So we are going to talk about G in a video. It's not going to be 3 videos. So Coco P says, Barrier Peaks, you got science fiction in my fantasy. It's two genres in one. Anywho, if you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, big tip of the cap to you, because not only were you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company as well. But of course, I know a lot of you out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Really do appreciate you taking time out to watch any of the over 2,100 videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. Big thank you to our sponsor, Roll for Combat, and their Year of Titans Kickstarter, which is running through December 12th. As I pointed out, tomorrow night, we are going to talk about Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons adventure. I think, if I remember right, that's like a late 70s module that came out. Maybe it's 80, somewhere around there. So that will be our topic of discussion. So if you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It will not only let you know when I stream the Dispatch live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Also let you know when I share other videos, such as my review of The Electric State from Free League Publishing. And I still have this In Shrink book available in the game sale. I had 2. I only have 1 left. So very nice, very nice. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. I'll be back tomorrow. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks for watching. And as always, certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.